Alright, what's good, y'all? I'm Joe. We're talking about Proxmox and why you should find a server on eBay and set up your Proxmox system. Oh, I went the wrong way. A little bit about me. Does H4 here, CSEC, CSMS, from Long Island. I do pep band a lot. Come to pep band starting in like a couple weeks. CSH, do e-board sysadmin. Red Blue, Code Addict, kind of just give me code projects and I'll end up getting addicted. Went to Mido last year. Pulled Anthony into a mud pit. That was fun. So, what is Proxmox? Who here has used all this? Freshmen, you've used all this in CSEC 140, right? Did you guys have fun?
No.
Exactly. Okay, welcome to Proxmox. Proxmox is an open source server management system for VMs and containers. Uses KVM and LXC, KVM being the kernel-based virtual machines, and LXC being Linux containers. It's based off Debian, so if you ever use Debian Linux, the entire Proxmox system is built on top of a Debian system, which allows you to do a lot of cool things as we'll get into. It also has built-in support for Ceph. Ceph is a distributed file system, very good for having redundant storage when needed. And you can either run it as a single node, which what you can do for personal use, or if you're doing something at enterprise level, you can have a multi-node cluster. Setting up Proxmox. As I said, it's just like Debian. You download the ISO online. They're up to version 8 now. And you can install it onto any system you want. When complete, you'll automatically have a web console you can go to. It'll be at the IP, port 8006, over HTTPS. It will have self-signed certs, which will make your computer get mad, but you can ignore that. We're secure here. And yeah, the web console is kind of your best friend. You can do anything you want from here. Manage storage, manage network interfaces. You can have a full-on shell to your system from here, which is very nice to have, so you don't have to open SSH. And there's multiple log methods, which we'll get into. And again, self-signed certs, kind of annoying. Ways you can get around that is, since it's Debian-based, you can install Nginx, Apache, or any reverse proxy you want to use. Set up some good certs with there with Let's Encrypt, and you're good to go on forward, right? So, auth models. You may have heard of some of these before, some of them may be new to you. So, Proxmox, in order to be as compatible as possible, allows you to create different types of auth methods for your users. Linux PAM, basically if it's a user in the system, you can use it to log into Proxmox through the web. Proxmox VE is their built-in authentication method. So if you want to create a user that is able to access the web config, maybe mess with some VMs, but can't access the actual system, you would want to use Proxmox VE. Or if you're a company using Active Directory or Azure, you can use AD. LDAP for something like CIPA, or OpenID Connect or OIDC. This is what a lot of common OAuth systems use, for example, Keycloak, Authentic. Often use the OIDC protocol, OAuth2. And it's very easy to integrate. You simply give it the credentials and it'll let you log in that way. So, users, groups, and permissions. There's a lot of permissions. Proxmox tries to keep everything as segmented as possible so you can create things to be secure. So there's a ton of permissions. I only mentioned general broad spans of permissions here. So there's the pool options. So we'll get into what pool is in a minute. You can specify if a user is able to access the console of a VM or access the configuration options of the VM, such as changing core count, changing drives, etc., or be able to access or configure the base bare metal system. Permissions can also be set to a group of users. You can configure Proxmox groups and add users to those groups, and anyone in the group will get the permissions of said group. All of that will apply to the entire system, the entire cluster. If you want to limit it to just a specific set of VMs, let's say a user has 5 VMs they're trying to use, and you only want them to be able to fully manage those 5, you can create a pool and then set the permissions, binding the user, the permission, and the pool. Pool is just a fancy word for a folder. Essentially, a VM can go into a pool, and then you have permissions in there for those specific VMs. A VM can only be a member of one group. So keep that in mind. You can only have a VM exist in one pool. If you want it to have multiple permissions, you can set permissions actually to the VM. So, for example, if I own the pool with the VM, and I want to give Alec console access my VM, I can add him to the user permissions on that virtual machine, not to the pool. Networking. Proxmox can be kind of complex when depending on what you do with the networking. What it does is it tries to avoid you using the actual bare metal interface and use Linux bridges, which come up as VM bridge or VMBR, and then those bind to ports on the physical system. For example, here, VM bridge 0 is a bridge to EN01, and it has its own IP, so Proxmox can be accessed from 129.21.49.121. You also see it's connected to another interface in VM bridge 2, and one thing I want to point out, because we're going to get to it later, is VM bridge 3. You see right here that VLAN aware, which is what that's supposed to say, is yes. That means that VM bridge 3 can distinguish between traffic in different VLANs and allows you to kind of segment it off as if it's a switch. So, making your first VM in Proxmox. You're going to need the ISO file, typically. An ISO file, again, is a disk image that is usually meant for installers. That's what you use the flash drive to install your new OS. So you grab it online, and then you can download it into the Proxmox ISO storage. Then there'll be a button to create a VM, specify the ISO, cores, the disk size, and networking options, and then you wait. Proxmox will build the image for you, give it the name you want, pool you want, and then you can get into using it. Right here is an example of what it looks like once the VM is complete. So as you can see here, this VM is called HackerMan. This is my Kali box that I have. And in the hardware section, you can see it has 8 gigs of RAM, 8 cores, a bunch of BIOS options. And you can see my hard drive, the installer ISO, and my network device. Each VM in Proxmox gets its own MAC address, the bridge being the NIC that's associated to, and here we're using a VLAN to separate from different systems. Options are different from hardware because it's kind of as if it's your BIOS. Think of options as your BIOS settings and hardware as your physical computer. So in here you can specify boot order, start on boot, which means if the VM is shut down, or if the physical computer is shut down and the computer is turned back on, do you want this VM to reboot? You can change in here hot plug options, some time options, BIOS UIDs, and SPICE enhancements. SPICE is a type of connection method to the VM, which we'll get into in a minute. CloudInit. CloudInit is very cool. If you ever mess with AWS or Azure, you've probably touched CloudInit. It is a way to specify a bunch of preset user options on a cloud-based image and apply it to the OS automatically. So, for example, you can specify a user, password, SSH public key, and IP config. And then when you create this VM, it'll automatically create it with this already installed. You won't have to reinstall the OS or anything like that. It'll just start up right away with these configurations set. Skipping the install is good when you're trying to install a bunch of VMs at once because you don't want to sit through the Ubuntu install process 5 times. Templates, very similar to CloudInit. You actually have CloudInit templates. So what a template is let's say you made a VM, you installed your favorite packages on it, you installed the VM, you got your Vim config on there, got your favorite password on it, and you don't want to have to remake this ever again. You can make it a template. As you can see up top, we have a Debian template, and then it is saved forever to be cloned into multiple other machines. You can either make a clone as a full or link clone. If you've taken sysadmin before, you've seen this before. Full clone, meaning that it's going to fully copy the disk, an entirely separate copy. Link clone means that it's going to still reference part of the original clone disk. Link clones are much faster to make, and full clones will take longer, but also are entirely independent. The console. So you made this VM, you did all this permission checking, and you're actually ready to mess with your VM. What's it called? Proxmox uses no VNC by default. No VNC is VNC through WebSocket. So if you've used VNC before, it's over, I want to say TCP, might be UDP, port 5900. If you want to do this over the web, you're going to use a web-based protocol. So NodeVNC proxies it over WebSockets onto your web browser using JavaScript. And then you can access it right from here. You can go on full screen if you need to. It can also support something called Spice. I haven't gotten into it much. Spice you can actually use on a physical app. So if you don't have to open a web console, you can do it from here. NodeVNC is also nice because since it's a web system, you can use the Proxmox API to reference it on another application. So if you ever wanted to make some type of external tool to Proxmox to manage it, you can get console access through NodeVNC. Okay, virtual networks. This is a fun time. Proxmox doesn't have the most intuitive method to virtualizing networks, unlike other solutions. They are currently working on something called SDN, a software-defined network. Bradley Hawker is working on that if you want to talk to him about it. That's still in beta, so here's how it's done kind of today. Who here has heard of VLAN? Does anyone know what VLAN is? Cool. For those who don't know, VLAN is a virtual LAN. It's an Ethernet level tag that can specify in the packet which virtual network it's a part of. So your switches and routers can identify packets in different VLANs and separate them accordingly. So what you can do is you can create a bridge that's VLAN aware, as I showed you in bridge 3 on my system is VLAN aware. And then the VMs themselves, you can assign their network interface to be associated with the VLAN. From there, the Proxmox system will know to only let that system talk to other VMs that are in the same VLAN. If you're doing this on multiple nodes, which is how I do it, you're going to need a switch that has trunk ports enabled so that the VLAN 3900 from one machine can talk to VLAN 3900 on the next machine. And then to get the actual internet, chances are you're going to have a pfSense VM or some type of routing interface in order to get out to the actual internet. If you're doing one node and you want it quick and easy, it's Debian based. You can run DHCPD, do some IP tables magic with NAT, and you can have it that any VM that's made gets a NAT IP and is NAT to your actual interface on your Proxmox machine. It's very helpful. When you're doing one node, it saves you so much time having to assign IPs manually, and it prevents you from having to request multiple IPs if, let's say, you're doing this through OIT. If you were not NATing, every new Proxmox VM would need a new IP, which means you have to request another one from IPS, and eventually IPS would probably get upset. Oh, not there yet. Drawbacks. I love Proxmox. There's some things I wish it was better at. For example, there's no way to handle member resource usage. It's not built in that you can say this user can only have 4 cores, this user can have 8 cores. So I have like the custom APIs I'm going to share with people on how to manage that. The API documentation is okay. Some things are very well documented, like getting port count and managing port count. Some things like VNC proxy are a pain to set up, but it's attemptable. Definitely going to need to go through the Proxmox forums if you want to use those, but I still recommend it. Proxmox loves to email spam you unless you tell it to turn off. It'll email you every time a package is out of date, which is really fun. I don't like updating my packages. It's too much work, except when I need to. And Windows, due to the way that Proxmox does everything with VirtIO, Windows can sometimes require extra steps to set up. VirtIO is the driver type or drive type that's using to create your interfaces and to create your disk. Windows by default does not support this type, so Red Hat created the VirtIO driver, which you're able to install during install time and during actual Windows operation, which I'll be showing you in a few minutes. All right, that was a lot of information. I'm going to now show you a Proxmox node that I made for this demo to show you how it works. Anyone have any questions about anything I went over so far before I go into that? No? Baller. So if I exit here. So this is a Proxmox node. This is what it looks like. Great web console. So you see what I have Proxmox demo that Abbate.me. And over here we have a bunch of different virtual machines that we can access. First thing I want to go over is kind of how a basic machine will work. So if I like this. Everyone read what's going on the screen? Hopefully. No. I can't seem to zoom in. You can't see it. Yeah. So if I do IPA, you can see that it has a 192.168.0.153. This is being done through my Proxmox node's DHCP. I can show this if I open a terminal. So in here, you can see that I am running DHCP on the bare metal Proxmox machine. It knows to talk to interface VM bridge 1. That's the one I specified for NAT operation. And then it is doing these IPs to be NATed. The way we handle NATing is, since it is, again, a Debian machine /etc/network/interfaces. You can see here, VM bridge 0 is the default NIC. And then VM bridge 1 has a NAT IP. And up here, it specifies that when it's put up, it's going to NAT these IPs to VM bridge 0, which again is the public internet. Masquerade being the way that it's doing NATing. It's in the NAT tables to IP tables. Something cool I wanted to show as well is doing web service through Proxmox. So we said again, this is .153. So I have installed on this machine Caddy, which is a reverse proxy. Hi, Drew Young, if you're on stream. So you see here, this is how I'm doing HTTPS for the actual node. So Proxmox demo.joeabbate.me is reverse proxying localhost 8006. And again, since it's a self-signed setting to remind Caddy to ignore verification. So here, if I want to, do I name this thing? I think it was demo site.joeabbate.me. We can tell it to reverse proxy to 192.168.1.153. So we specify port here, so this yellow. Now if I restart Caddy, you can see if I go on my web browser to demo site.joeabbate.me. That's cool. I may have gotten the domain wrong. Regardless, yeah, that's not gonna work. If you do Caddy and reverse proxying, it will work. I just got the domain that I set up on this. Live demos always work, guys. Don't you worry. So real quick, I'm gonna go into Windows. For those who enjoy Windows, first we go into the installer. So let's say try to install Windows VM. You can see here it doesn't see my drive. It's kind of upset. So did I install it? I did not. So you need to go into the drivers and install the driver, which you have to mount. I've done that on this machine, which is post installation. But as you can see, even with the driver done during installation, it fails to find the interface now. The way we fix that is by having the driver open and running the little install tool they give you. And accept your soul, like that. And just like that, you'll start getting your interfaces back. And there you go, the interface has been found. Finally, I want to go over kind of how validating works with VLANs. So here I have a pfSense box. If you haven't used pfSense before and you're doing IOSec, I recommend listening about this. pfSense is a common FreeBSD-based validating and packet filter OS. So here we have our WAN talking to the general NAT, and two internal LAN interfaces using VNet1 and VNet2. Look at our hardware, you can see that Net1 and Net2 have the VLAN aware bridge, and then PEG1 and PEG2. that associates with these two VMs. So if I go here, you can see during my chase route to 8.8.8.8 chase route, what it does, for those who haven't seen it before, is it will use TTLs and ICMP to show you every hop that your system goes from where it is to your final destination. So 8.8.8.8 being Google DNS, it first talks to 192.168.1.1 being our BSS router, then to the Proxmox router, and then out to the general internet. This is helpful if you want to test something in kind of a more isolated area, or you're testing stuff that may mess with DHCP or DNS. So yeah, that's Proxmox. I hope you all enjoyed. Does anyone have any questions regarding how to set it up, how to use it, any of these other tabs I didn't go into? Yep.
Root drivers other than the small deployments, root drivers other than Intel drivers, basic technology, with data emulation is voice.
So you're talking about.
Yes, for Windows, you look at drivers manually.
Oh yeah, so you can use other driver types other than Vert.io. Proxmox just sometimes gets angry about it. You can run into some errors. Overall, it's better just to use the recommended drivers that Proxmox gives you, which is Vert.io. Otherwise, you may run into other issues down the line. This is just what I found. I've messed around a lot with Windows because I was trying to set up images, and I tried doing it the other way using regular SCSI controllers or other regular interfaces, and I was running into more errors than I was solving. I just blame Windows. Yep. I do not believe it supports cross architecture. There is a lot of CPU options you can give it though. I believe that they are solving issues for Vel 9 and Windows 11 having specific CPU requirements. Maybe able to. Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of different types. I don't know if you can go like entirely into, let's say, ARM, but you can go into basically any different kind of x86 or 64 type in here. Anyone else? Chase K?
So you've been working on this project for a little bit now. Is this something you would put on your resume?
I think I would.
Yeah.
I think talking to recruiters about Proxmox.
And do you have anything to store your resume in when you go to career fairs or anything like that?
I don't think I do. Would you happen to have one for me?
I would happen to.
Oh, wow.
This is, woo! Yeah! Okay. So this is a case study presentation. So we get this little RIT SecPad folio. It holds your little things out of paper. You take little notes during your interviews. That's amazing.
Incredible.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chase K.
Yeah, well, thank you for presenting.